For 17 years, I thought my family was just eccentric. No weird winter trips, bizarre rules, no Christmas ever. But on the 12th night of our so-called winter pilgrimage, I followed the chanting. What I saw: a child in the snow, a blade, my father with dead eyes. That's when I realized our family tradition wasn't just strange. It was criminal, maybe even murderous. And the scariest part, I was supposed to help continue it. Before we dive into this story, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below where in the world you're watching from, because trust me, by the end, you'll be questioning your own family traditions too. Chapter 1. The Winter Pilgrimage. I was 13 the first time I realized our family wasn't normal. It wasn't the kind of realization that hits you all at once. It was slow, like snow piling up outside your window, quiet, steady, and suffocating if you ignored it for too long. In our family, secrets were sacred and questions were punishable. Every December, without fail, my parents would start preparing for what they called the Winter Pilgrimage. It was a solemn affair. No holiday decorations, no Christmas lights, no cheerful music, just tension, thick in the air like cigarette smoke. My mom would pack large duffel bags with canned food, bottled water, flashlights, and first aid kits. My dad would sharpen knives in the garage, sometimes late into the night, mumbling to himself. We were told not to speak about it to anyone at school, not even our closest friends. Outsiders won't understand, my mom always said, her voice flat and her eyes distant. And that was the rule that rang the loudest in our house: never let outsiders in. My older brother Caleb, who is 18 and already full of half-grown facial hair and secrets of his own, used to warn me when I got too curious. "Just do what they say," he'd whisper. "It's easier, safer." Our destination was always the same: a remote cabin in the Appalachian Mountains passed down through generations. No electricity, no cell service. Just us, the biting cold, and a strange set of rituals no one ever fully explained. We'd leave on December 20th and return exactly on January 2nd. 12 days and nights of complete isolation. My parents called it a cleansing. Caleb called it a necessary sacrifice. I had no name for it, only a growing unease that scratched at the back of my skull like nails on wood. That year, my 17th, I decided I couldn't ignore it anymore. I needed to know what we were really doing up there, not just because I was tired of being lied to, but because something inside me, something louder than fear, was screaming that whatever we were a part of wasn't just secret. It was wrong. The night before we left, I waited until everyone was asleep and crept into the basement. There were locked cabinets, dusty trunks, and a shelf full of books with titles like Purity Through Fire and Bloodline Bound. The Oath of 12. I'd never seen them before, and I knew immediately I wasn't supposed to. My fingers trembled as I flipped through the pages, drawings of people in hoods, diagrams of cabins surrounded by sigils, and what looked like handwritten testimonies from family members I'd never met. One entry read, "We must never break the chain. The 12th night determines the year ahead. Without the offering, we invite the reckoning." I heard footsteps overhead and quickly shoved everything back in place, but I couldn't unsee it. That night, as we loaded into the van in the early dark of morning, felt like I was entering a war zone disguised as tradition. The cabin, when we arrived, was just as I remember: desolated, heavy with silence, and surrounded by woods that seemed to whisper things when the wind blew right. We unpacked in silence, each of us falling into our roles like actors in a well-rehearsed play. That first night, I didn't sleep. I waited, and around 2 a.m. I heard it chanting, low, guttural, and rhythmic, coming from behind the cabin where the woods dipped into a hollow. I slipped out of bed, wrapped myself in my coat, and crept outside. What I saw changed everything. In a small clearing, lit by torchlight and the icy breath of moonlight, my family stood in a circle. My parents, Caleb, a few cousins I didn't realize had joined us, and in the Centaura deer, bound and shivering, I watched as my father raised a ceremonial-looking blade and, without hesitation, brought it down across the deer's throat. The blood hit the snow like spilled ink, and the chanting stopped. They all raised their hands, and then they bowed. I stumbled backward, slipped on the ice, and hit the ground with a loud crack. Silence. Then footsteps. The last thing I saw was Caleb's face looming over me, not angry, but tired, like he'd known this moment would come. "You weren't supposed to see that," he whispered. Then everything went dark. Chapter 2. Bloodlines and Secrets. When I woke up, I was back in the cabin, lying on the stiff mattress in the loft. My head throbbed, and the right side of my face ached from where I'd hit the ground. Morning light streamed in through the frost-covered window, making the ice crystals sparkle like tiny daggers. I expected anger, a lecture, maybe even a punishment, but no one said a word. Breakfast was served in silence: plain oatmeal and instant coffee. My mom's eyes never met mine. My dad was already outside, chopping wood like nothing had happened. Caleb sat across from me at the table, his face blank, as if the night before had been just another dream I wasn't supposed to remember. But I did remember. Every second of it. I spent the next day watching everyone like a hawk, trying to spot cracks in the performance. They carried on as if everything was normal, reading old books by the fire, taking turns boiling water on the wood stove, preparing food. At night, I feigned sleep and tried to listen, but the chanting didn't return. On the third day, I cornered Caleb while he was splitting kindling behind the cabin. "Why?" I asked, voice low. "Why do we do this? What was that?" He didn't look up. "It's not something you explain," he said. "It's something you inherit. That doesn't make it right." He stopped. The axe paused midair and turned to me slowly. "You think I like this? That I want to be here? You think any of us do?" His voice cracked not with anger, but with exhaustion. "Then why not leave?" He laughed bitterly. "You don't leave bloodlines, little sister. Not when they're bound." Later that night, I returned to the basement with a flashlight. The others were too busy with their nightly routines to notice. I unlocked the same trunk I had found earlier, this time with Caleb's old knife from the kitchen. Inside were more journals, brittle from age. Some were written in strange dialects, a mix of Latin and something I didn't recognize. Others were in English, more recent entries from my grandfather, great-uncles, even my mother. One entry chilled me to the bone. The winter pilgrimage began as survival. In the old country, it meant food, fire, and family. But when we crossed the sea, we brought more than blood. We brought a covenant. The offering keeps balance. The offering protects us. Without it, we lose everything. Another journal had detailed maps of nearby properties, cabins, shelters, caves. Some were crossed out with red X's. One was circled in black ink. Underneath was written, "Failed offering -1,987. My hands were shaking. I closed the trunk and backed away, heart thudding. When I turned around, my mother was standing at the foot of the stairs. She didn't speak, just stared, her face unreadable. Then she said quietly, "You have to understand, sweetie. You're part of something bigger. We don't choose this. We uphold it, even if it's wrong." She walked back up the stairs without answering. The next day, I noticed something new. A young girl, maybe 10 years old. She wasn't from our family. She didn't speak. She just sat by the fire, staring into it like she'd seen the end of the world. I asked Caleb who she was. He looked away and said, "An outsider." My stomach turned. That night, the chanting returned. But this time, I knew I had to follow it. And I did. Chapter 3. The 12th night the forest seemed darker than usual that night. I followed the sound of the chanting, this time more careful, more deliberate. The voices grew louder with each step. Every crunch of snow under my boots echoed like a gunshot. The clearing came into view, ringed by torches. The entire family stood in a wide circle, cloaked in black. In the center, the little girl. She wasn't tied up. She just stood there, perfectly still. Her eyes met mine for a fraction of a second and she didn't look afraid. She looked resigned. My father stepped forward, holding the ceremonial blade. I couldn't breathe. Something inside me snapped. I ran forward, out into the clearing, shouting. "Stop!" Gasps. Whispers. Caleb stepped forward, panic on his face. "What are you doing? This has to stop. She's just a kid. You're going to kill her for some tradition that none of you even understand." My father's voice was cold. "She is the offering. She's a human being." Silence. The kind that wraps around your throat. "You've broken the cycle," my mother said. "You've seen too much." Caleb moved between me and the circle. Right? We can't keep doing this. We can't live in fear of something we can't see. For a moment, I thought they'd attack him, but no one moved. Then the girl stepped forward. "It's okay," she said. "I've been chosen." "You don't have to be," I whispered. But she just smiled, sad and far too wise for her age. "If I don't, go. Someone else will." I looked at Caleb. We had to end this. He turned to the others. No more. It was my father who dropped the blade first, then one by one. The rest followed the torches, burned out. The girl walked into the woods. Alone, and the silence that followed felt like the first breath after drowning. We left the cabin the next day. For the first time in my life, we didn't stay the full 12 days. No one spoke of what happened. We never returned. Years later, I still wonder about the girl, who she was, why she smiled, and if the reckoning they feared ever truly came. But I know one thing for sure. Tradition only holds power when we give it permission, and I was done giving it mine.